Hi, Marco. Thank you for coming to BizTalk. It's my great pleasure. How are you today?
Thank you, Massimiliano. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I'm good today. Quite well. Just back in the south of Italy for a few days. So yeah, I'm feeling good.
Pretty hot.
And hot as well. Exactly.
Thank you for your time. So let's start giving an introduction before talking about your startup.
Yeah. So just to give you a quick background about myself, as a self-made entrepreneur, as I used to say. My background is in medicine and pharmacy. So I don't come directly from sport, even though I was a former athlete from Italian national team of kayak for more than 10 years. And then I decided to just switch my knowledge, my expertise in physiology and matching it with the sports part and my greatest passion, because I'm a bit of a geek, like I'm that kind of, otherwise I was not a tech founder, So after my first degree, I decided to start working in football because there was a great opportunity to work with one of the biggest companies at the moment in the world that is providing tracking system technologies. And I was lucky because I had the chance to really see the world of football from the elite side from day one. And then after a few years, I've been working as a coaching staff. So as a sports scientist, a data scientist in a proper football clubs and federation. And then in 2016, I did this crazy choice to jump into the entrepreneurship and founding Iterpro.
Thank you so much. Let's start talking about your venture.
Sure. Okay. So what is Iterpro? Let's give first a little bit of context about what's the football industry right now, because it's one of the fastest industry in terms of growth at the moment. It's a very fast-paced industry because of a lot of investment and capital flowing, especially in the last 20, 25 years. And this is a very special environment where basically most of the key decisions are taken under pressure in a very limited time condition. And we need to consider also that 60 to 80%, these are the number pre-pandemic, so now probably is 80 to 100%, the wage to revenue ratio. So that means that the main financial asset for a football club is represented by the players, because at the end of the day is what is the main expenses is represented by them. But at the same time, even though everyone thinks that the football industry is going very fast, is relatively archaic in terms of technology adoption and especially lack of communication, because everyone in football is working vertically in his own area of expertise. So sometimes it's tough really to share the work with a colleague that is working close probably in your same desk. And this is like a common problem. But it's like seeing the same issue from different point of view, but without matching the data, leveraging the know-how of your colleague at the end of the day. So as I say, as a former kayaker, if you don't paddle in the same direction at the same time, the boat keeps spinning. And the same works for an organization like sports organization or football in this case. So what's the problem at the end of the day? Because all those things that I just say, they lead really to poor management, poor communication, overtraining and injuries, waste of talent, and of course, financial losses. But what I thought when I was working in football and why I founded Iterpro. So I was playing Football Manager or FIFA, I took a lot of inspiration from the gaming industry because I was one of the gamers. I say, why do we have such a nice software for gamer? We don't have it, for professional football where we manage millions of assets for the football club. We don't have just probably an Excel spreadsheet to do this stuff. So I decided to come out with this idea. There was basically an only one data management platform that connects every dot across the sports and football organization, centralizing all the data and helping, of course, the final user to turn those data into action. When I say turning data into action, I mean like not just numbers, but information ready to be used and where, makes all the difference when it comes to take a decision. That's why we say that will improve the decision making in the sports organization. So here you can see that we basically cover 360 degrees the player management process, from technical side, recruitment and scouting, administration and finance, so contract management and financial forecast for the club, sports science, and all the medical department as well. Because at the end of the day, as I say before, what we do is just changing the point of view from just a player management to an asset management. At the end, just in Europe, the total wage cost now probably is even more than 8.5 billion. So we're talking about big numbers at the end of the day. And the club benefits that they have by using our solution is mainly like about streamlining communication workflow, reducing the injury risk, identifying talents, and at the same time, of course, increasing the return on investment because they have full control on what they do on daily basis. Just to give you like even a quick background about our journey, we've been founded a company in 2018, and we received our first seed capital at the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, when we launched Iterpro on the market for the first time. And in the same year, we achieved the first milestone, signing like long-term deal with the football giants such as AC Milan. And year by year, we've been improving this and validating our solution, even signing with federation and governing bodies. And that's for us very important because in the first 2-3 years, we've been validating the system, and now we're in that phase where we need to scale it. To give you also like a general introduction about the football market, we're talking about the market that is worth about 23-25 billion just in Europe. And if we talk about the sports analytic market at the moment, probably is 2.5 billion. So we're talking about a market that is constantly growth and has a growth rate of 25% at the moment. So it's a quite hot topic in the industry. Our target customer is, of course, we started from football clubs and football association because that's where we started from and my personal background. So, of course, we do also target football academies and school because we've been able to democratize the system and lower the pricing and creating some basic features, not just for the elite. Football agents. And since 1 year and a half, we started validating the software also with other sports and association. And here, for example, we have like one of the milestones that I'm proud of because we've been closing a deal with the Italian Rugby Federation, which means a lot for us, especially from a platform that was focused mainly on football. Closing a deal like this makes, of course, the difference when we talk especially with investors, because at the end of the day, it means that we can increase the number of prospects and target by a lot. Our business model is a SaaS, classic business model. We basically have a subscription model, so we ask for a minimum commitment of 1 year. And the two variables are the number of teams you want to cover, because we need to remember that clubs has more than one teams. We always see the first team because we see it in television, the stadium, but there's a big movement behind them. Just to give you an idea, AC Milan covers 22 teams from the under 7 female up to the first team. The second variable is the users and the modules. So the number of features you want and how many users you want to onboard on the system, because it really depends on the size of the club, because we can serve both like small academy or like sub-elite level teams or elite level teams where they have, I don't know, 90 users, 90 people on board, so they need to cover the entire club. In terms of competitors, what I really like to say, because we don't have like a real direct competitors, but I would say that we have a lot of partial competitor, because we are the only platform that is an only one solution at the end of the day, and especially because we are the first one in the world able to digitize automatically the contracts and creating automatic financial forecasts for the club based on the contracts of the players. This is such a feature that probably we are the only one really to have at the moment in the industry. Our stage of development, just to give you an idea, we have 24 clients at the moment, 150 teams onboarded, and we validated the solution across different sports and different sides of clubs. You will see like big brands such as AC Milan, Leeds United, Watford FC, Olimpia Milano, Rugby Federation. So it's really a software that is trying to expand everywhere in the sports industry. Of course, main case study to mention are AC Milan and the federation that I mentioned before during our journey timeline. But just to give you an idea about our sites, we are 10 people full-time working full-time and another 6 part-time, so about 15-16 people working on this project. And let's say on the management team, it's me, Piercarlo, my CTO, a co-founder, and Giulio, head of football finance. But I would mention that Franco Baresi is our VIP brand ambassador, which is vice president of AC Milan, and probably doesn't need any introduction. And that for us is a big proud, to have him on board in this project. So going toward the ends, in terms of growth opportunity, Iterpro is a big monster, a big octopus, let's say. So it really touches every aspect of the player management and is ready for plugging in a lot of services. So what we want to do is consolidating the football market and expanding in other sports. But at the same time, we have a lot of opportunity in order to consolidate the business, as you will see here listed: consultancy service or third-party technology partnerships, or just developing new product, rebranding them. Because the same product that we sell for the club, it can be sold for the player, it can be sold for the agent. So it's it's written here, one technology, but a full landscape of possibilities. And just to close, the kind of possibility that we're talking about is like making the business a full scalable business as a proper SaaS. So starting from a freemium service for the lower base up to the elite level as we do it now. Agent up, so just rebranding the service and making it available for the agent. And the last one, which is very, very interesting, like giving the ownership of the data directly to the final user, which is the player, that they own their own data, and helping them to sell it on the blockchain ecosystem. But that's probably more long-term. Where we are focused mainly right now is freemium and agent up. Just to close, we are looking at the moment for £1.5 million. And the way we're going to use this fund is mainly about evolving the platform and keeping the platform cutting edge in order to have that technology advantage on the competitors. But let's say that most of the fund will be used in developing the business, building a core sales team, because at the moment I'm the only one doing this sales in the company, and at the same time scaling the business in other markets. So creating a proper network, solid business network around the world with local people helping us to penetrate local markets as well. So I will stop here my presentation. I don't know if you have any specific question about it.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I mean, really exciting. My first very straightforward is, who are the clubs who benefit the most? Are the small one or the big one?
That's a very good question, Massimiliano. And the reason why is because we have two different level, let's say. We have the big club that doesn't need the software basically it's not just for communication and streamline the process. It's just that they already have all the infrastructure. They don't know where to put it. So we basically provide a solution that is helping to create a more solid framework. So it's connecting a lot of people, a lot of data on the same platform. With a middle-sized small club, we have a total different goal and total different benefits. And because usually the client takes inspiration from the digital ecosystem in order to improve also their real-life process and the workflow. So it's an upside-down approach. And sometimes in a small club, a small organization, also the number of human resources are limited. So you will see like people doing more than one task in the same club, and this is helping them to save time a lot. Instead, for the big club, is more like an asset management tool for the club.
Where do you see your next step? I mean, you have been already talking about pretty few verticals and also cross-selling along with other sports. It's not just football. Football is more popular in Italy, by far is the most popular in Europe. But in terms of verticals, I saw at the end that you are considering working with managers, with other providers. How do you see this collaboration? How they can use the platform for contracts or for which kind of service?
Yeah, that's another good question, because it's the second level of, it's exactly the evolution of your first question. So the first one is what kind of club we target. The second one is which one we target in the club, because we have a very wide range of stakeholders inside. And even here, I will say that we should divide it in two. One is ground operation level, so everything happening on the training facilities on daily basis. So football medicine, sports science, technical, tactical management, from the head coach, for example. And then there's what we call the director side. So at managing director level, CFO, CEO, and owners of the club that use the solution to manage the contract and doing a proper financial analysis in real time of their portfolio, and their asset. So we have these two different targets, of course, two different goals. But the great things about Iterpro that we bridge the two worlds, because at the moment, if you think about it, headquarters and training facilities most of the time are separated in two different parts of the city, and the people, they don't even talk to each other. Instead, giving a point of view to both of them, about what's the real value of the player that they're managing, because sometimes the fitness coach doesn't perceive that he's managing 10 million bag that is running on the pitch at the end of the day. And sometimes the managing director doesn't perceive that it's not just about selling and buying the player, but everything happening during the season is managed by the people on the ground. So having this double chance, I think, is the biggest benefit.
When it comes to buy and selling players, which is probably the most painful task for any manager, any director in football, especially, and everywhere. And your financial projections, football clubs are not the best companies in the world when it comes to having a clear and clean balance sheet and economics. How do you handle it? Especially for all the plus and minus, all the regulation that comes with the regulator itself, FIFA, you can't spend more than this, you can't do this. There is something inside football that can be told. How do you manage with this?
Yeah, that's a very painful point for the clubs, because even though it's the main thing, because at the end of the day, like, the transfer market window is probably the most important moment of the year, especially because you set up your asset on one side, and also probably you prepare the team to perform at its best. But I would say that that's still a work in progress area for football. And as I said before, we are the only one at the moment in the world able to provide such a solution, because at the moment you have like a sporting director that is the guy that is managing the recruitment, and so is the guy that has access to the wallet of the club. And at the same time, the sporting director, or at least the most old-fashioned sporting director, now things are changing a little bit. They don't have that skill and know-how about the finance planification, So sometimes the two things, recruitment and finance, they go parallel. They don't really match together. One of our goals is to create the sport director 2.0. So the new version, the sport director, that has a mix of this skill, where he's able, of course, to do his job, because the most important thing is the expertise about finding the right player, the right deals. But at the same time, having a clear view of what's the impact of this sale or purchase is going to have on the cash flow or on the P&L of the club. That's probably one of the most important things, because sometimes you do one step longer, one step longer, probably you're not going to recover the next season, because you got relegated, so you don't have a plan B. And that's where we help, managing exactly this very hectic period of the market, because we have to consider also the sporting director taking decision in hours about millions and dozens of millions, to spend. And sometimes where you have to update all your cash flow, there's no time to do that. So we're helping on both sides, the sporting director to have a clear view, and the finance department to save time and providing the sporting director with the right information the fastest time possible.
You adopt a SaaS model, and it's pretty clear what today they can do and maybe what they're going to do tomorrow. My question is, are you going to be brave enough one day to bring buy and selling players on your platform? marketplace where you actually include even what the most by far lucrative aspect of the transfer of player?
That's a big question. Yeah. At the moment, we have like 2-3 platforms that are trying to match in players, agents, and club, and where the is not happening the transaction, but the matching between, in terms of interest, the matching between the main stakeholder is happening. Where we want to position ourselves is not on the transaction side, but it's just before and after. Of course, we have like a gap in the middle, but we want to work mainly for the club. Probably in the future, there could be something feasible, but I believe that this should be like regulated by the leagues and governing bodies. At the moment in Europe, is almost impossible because the league structure is different for every country. But if you think about the MLS, which is, I believe, not probably the most famous league in the world yet, but I think is well structured, as American are giving us a lot of inspiration about technology development and frameworks. They have like this way to pay salary or transaction. Everything has to go through the league. So the league is a perfect, let's say, a full monitoring, a full control of the situation of what's happening. Instead, like in Europe, it's still happening between clubs and agents, or player and club directly. Sometimes where you have, agent-free players. So it's a big challenge also on the regulatory side, directly from the governing bodies.
It's pretty clear to me how you work with clubs. What about the league itself? Serie A in Italy, Liga in Spain, and so on. How do you work with them?
So basically, that's another target, of course, because we work with some federation and league. It really depends on the model, because as I said before, every league is different from the other, depending if the league is owned by the clubs or the league is, let's say, third-party organization that is just coordinating the competition. So it really depends. But let's say that the way we do money with leagues, or potentially we can make money with leagues, is that basically we target the league is going to provide our service waterfall to every single club participating to that specific competition. So we charge the league, and then the league gives the software for free to the clubs in order to improve the level, or to give everyone the same tools, basically. But there's something more, because if the club agree with the leagues about ownership of some certain data, of course, covered by privacy, with GDPR is getting even tougher, and that's probably is going to increase in the next 5 years. So we need the privacy, and we can't disclaim the name of the player. But at the same time, those data are very, very important for broadcasting, betting companies, insurance company. And if you think about that, most of the time, those companies are the sponsor of the league. So at the end of the day, are the sponsor that they pay the clubs with their specific broadcasting rate, like let's say league benefits. So when we target the league, is the league doing the business for us, and then they sell our data to the sponsor.
Clear. Thank you. I mean, in terms of scaling, you started with football, you're already moving to rugby. Where do you see the main sport can adopt your platform?
I would say that still football is a kind of white canvas for us, because, as I mentioned before, it's relatively archaic compared to other sports, even a poorer one. Of course, there's a lot of money in football, but still, let's say the culture is not that data-driven and technology-wise, So that's probably still like you will see a big growth of football in the next 5 to 10 years for sure. But in terms of readiness of adopting this kind of system, I would say that the American sports are the best at the moment, and because they already are probably 10, 15 years ahead of Europe in terms of adopting technology and working in a data-driven approach.
I mean, football has to a 11 plus one player, which is at the funds. There is any way you're going to target with unbelievably huge market one day?
In terms of the fund, there's a way we can do it. Because I didn't mention before, of course, that's a more technicality, but...
Just let me open these breaks. I do believe at least one person of this huge community named funds who are bringing so much money to this, especially small clubs. Small clubs survive with funds. The big one, they have marketing and other tools, TV and rights and so on. But they should have someone who can say something on their behalf. This is why I'm saying this.
Yeah, 100%. And I'll give you an example, which has been a case, especially in last year. You see the issue that Barcelona and Spotify had, right? Yeah. So basically, they claim they are like 300 million, 400 million supporters around the world, and then on the CRM they were less than 3 million. And the reason why is that clubs, the way they do business, even with their soccer school, especially the big brands, just selling the brand. So I don't know, you give me 50K per year and that's it. So there's nothing else. Instead, they are losing most of the business to be able to monetize, because at the end, the kid that is playing with your T-shirt is the first supporter. And if the kid has your T-shirt, is wearing your T-shirt, it means that the parents are supporting your club as well. So, it's much bigger than they think. And the way we can do that is basically through this organization, because it's already structured. So think about pushing one button, apply Iterpro to every single soccer school of a big club like Paris Saint-Germain, Barcelona, AC Milan, all the big clubs, that Juventus, all the big clubs that we know. And with one button, applying Iterpro everywhere, you have on one side a digital service implemented for everyone. On the other side, you have a big CRM, because you start knowing every single person that is paying to play with your T-shirt, even in Southeast Asia or like in North America, South America, and at the same time, you can also run advertising through that. So you can use this CRM to increase the price for the sponsor. So you mention it, and I think is the biggest opportunity, but it really depends on the culture of the club, and because there's a lot of variables that don't depend on the technology at the moment.
Yeah, it's very sensible. Very sensible. That's the point.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we have a limited time, but I would like to close with the vision. I mean, you're an entrepreneur, so you have to have your vision. Where do you see your company in 5, 10? Where would you like to see yourself, your company in 3-5 years' time?
Yeah, I'm quite confident that if we talk about the product, and so even the company, the question is not if this is going to be used by the clubs. The question is when exactly this is going to become the standard. Because as for everything we have, I have it for my company. I can pick my phone and check all my finance, all the assets, all the clients. We have CRM and so on. Iterpro is going to become, let's say, the G Suite, the OneDrive of the club at the end of the day. So my vision is to come in a club, and the sporting director taking his phone and controlling the data of the player, and the doctor just on a screen with a dashboard with all the injuries player. So this is where it's going to be Iterpro in the clubs. In terms of size of company, we believe that we're already quite appealing to few big players in the market that they would like to consolidate their business. So probably the biggest change for us is going to be holding back from potential acquisition and developing our business in order to realize the vision as I just described it to you.
Actually, I will give you one more minute. How investors should invest in Marco and Iterpro?
That's thank you for the question. So the question is why, right?
Why
they should invest in us? Because we're going to literally change the game in the sports industry. And again, the question is not if, the question is when this is going to happen.
Marco, thank you very much for coming to BizTalk. It's been a very good pleasure for me.
Thank you, Massimiliano. Same from me, likewise.
Thank you for coming.